podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Here, we love talking about everything Batman. The BatmanUniverse.net has news, original content, and reviews about Batman comics, movies, TV shows, video games, and more. Check out the BatmanUniverse.net and join our Discord server to start chatting with fellow fans. We can't wait to talk to you guys. Also, visit our Patreon page and join our other awesome supporters. But enough of this nonsense. On with the show.
Gotham City, like any other large metropolis, abounds in girls of all shapes and sizes. Debutantes, nurses, stenographers, and librarians.
Gotham City Library, Miss Gordon speaking.
Lopez hair removal. This is Jose.
Holy transformation. 1 minute, plain Barbara Gordon, librarian and Commissioner Gordon's daughter. And the next minute, something new has been added. Batgirl, modeled after her idol, Batman.
Holy apparition! No, Boy Wonder, I'm Batgirl. You are no longer alone, Capes Crusaders.
It took me 3 years to track down the Jade Gato, and 3 more to figure out how to steal it.
Funny, it only took me 10 minutes to figure out how to snatch it back. No matter how you do it, crime doesn't pay, girls.
Salvete mihi nomen est, Stella, et hoc est, Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon Podcast, episode 244 for March MMXX Ivy. Batgirl the Oracle is brought to you by MileHighComics.com, your new and collectible comic book store. Mile High Comics has an inventory of over 5 million comics from the gold, silver, bronze, and modern age, and over 100,000 trade paperbacks. If you're not into the vintage stock, Mile High Comics also has a subscription service called the New Issue Comics Express, offering a discounted price for comics ready to hit the shelves. So if you're looking for vintage back issues or a great modern subscription service, be sure to check out MileHighComics.com. Well, today is Pi Day, as I'm recording this, 3.14. And tomorrow, may he rest in peace. My beloved was murdered on that day, the Ides of March, Julius Caesar. We lost him too soon. So I hope that you are able to celebrate in some way, wear black, and just really, I think, honor his memory and the wonderful things that he was bringing to Rome. I mean, come on. So we're coming off of a shipper special. I skipped 2, or well, I guess just 1. It feels like 2. I skipped a month of new comics. And so this episode is going to be a bit strange because it's only going to be new comics, which I may have done that before, but I was looking at my schedule and the next Birds of Prey storyline was 5 issues. And I was considering my energy level and wanting to get this out before some trips I have, mainly second round interviews at schools and teaching lessons and things. And so I just felt like I don't know that I have the time to prep for that, as well as, this podcast. So let's just do the Birds of Prey modern title twice. So this might actually be, I always say this, but this might actually be a short episode. Of course, the professor will come back and say it wasn't short. Nani, boo boo. Speaking of the professor, I've not been canceled yet, nor Donovan, though she was definitely kind of live texting us as she was listening to the Shipper special, and a lot of the heat and inflammatory comments came back on me. Again, because of Rhett and Scarlett. And then she said something funny like, now we're going from slaveholders to step siblings, at least it's a bit better, which is true. But hey, it was toxic couples. I think reading the tagline, you all should have known what you were getting into. I think before I get into the reviews, I think I'm going to do the listener emails that I have from the past couple episodes.
Mail time. Mail time. Mail time.
The mail's here. Come on. Here's the mail. It never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
I did not have any from the Shipper special. Either people are so incensed that they are not writing in, or they still need time to digest in order to write back. But I would like to hear comments. I did get one comment that this person enjoyed the episode, but it was also hard, and they're not really gung-ho for toxic couples, which I totally get. That's why it says, that we hate to love them. It's not like we're super overjoyed about loving these particular couples. But I do have some comments from episode 242 and I think 243. So 243 was me. Yeah, I will talk about that briefly. So from the YouTube Hornacek on part 1 of episode 242. It makes sense that you would have Donovan on this episode to talk about this game and the symbiote making Peter evil, because one of my all-time favorite memories of the Spider-Man crawl space was an episode many years ago where the panel was discussing the symbiote, and Brad asked, well, the symbiote made Peter evil in the comics, right? And Donovan replied, no, the symbiote didn't make Peter evil in the comics. It just took him out on patrol at night. It used him like a prison roommate. And then there's a smiley face emoji. So I think Donovan will love the fact that you are recalling a particular moment from his time there. He comes back and says, regarding Miles' hair being different in this game, it's like people complaining about this have forgotten being a teenager. Oh, look, a teenager's hair looks different than how it looked in the previous game, which takes place 1 year ago. Look at any random teenager and you'll see that most of the time their hair is different than how it was a year earlier. I still like that hairstyle, though I've now seen a video kind of talking about the Killmonger hair problem. And when he laid it out, because it was a guy, shoot, what is his name? I know his name, but I am not going to be able to recall it now, on IGN. And he showed all the pictures of look at all of these. Then I'm like, oh, that is problematic. Because if you just look at Miles, and if it were just Miles and a Void, you're like, yeah, there's no problem with that. But if they're consistently using that and going back to the well, and if then there is kind of a feel that, oh, is that the only black hairstyle that you feel like teenagers might have, or young men? So I get the argument now better once you have the photographic evidence in front of you, but I do still like the haircut. And then I think this was maybe part 2, or May was still, no, I guess it would have been part 1 because of the Spider-Man. Stella said that if she didn't know Kraven was dying when I played the game, and wondered if I missed a conversation. It wasn't anything someone said. When you're in the room in the social club with Dima, the tiger, you can examine various items before you are discovered. One of them is a desk with some pill bottles on it. Spidey will mention that they are chemotherapy drugs and wonders if they belong to Kraven. Pretty sure that's the only hint you get. During the Spidey Kraven fight, Spidey will say, your followers think you're a god, but you're just a dying old man. And Kraven replies, so you know, which doesn't make sense if you didn't find those pills. You'd think the developers would have left out all these lines of dialogue if you hadn't found the pills, or else made finding the pills mandatory. Yes, I'm pretty sure, because I always tap all of the info buttons to get as much as I can, but it must have just been something that I had forgot, a detail that I forgot. But I'm excited because New Game Plus just arrived. And so I'm looking forward to playing through it again. And I think focusing more on really the story details rather than oh, let me do all these side missions, let me power up and things like that. And then finally, no mention the Herald side mission. And now I've made myself remember that mission. Excuse me, I have something in my eye and some weeping emojis. I will say, in regards to that side mission, I did not know that I probably should have waited until the end. And I I think I did it as soon as it popped. I was like, oh, Harold, probably something with the pigeons. And as soon as it started and the way he's talking, which is like the way in any film, like a superhero film or something else, where like someone's saying goodbye to somebody else, you're like, oh no, they're going to die. I could not believe it. I had texted Donovan afterwards using those emojis, and he's like, I saved that for the end. But I had no idea that he was going to die. So I was just like, oh, it's a regular old Harold mission. We're going to get started on this. But that was so sad that he sends him off, and Spider-Man gathers all the pigeons, and then he comes back and Harold is dead. Like, Harold must have known immediately that he was like on the precipice of death. And then good thing Spider-Man came to help him out. That was quite sad. I think that probably was maybe one of the moments that I teared up, as well as the others that I mentioned. And then email wise, also on episode 242 from Earth to Shayna. Hi, Stella. Congrats on the snow and starting your last semester of grad school. Donovan summed up my own thoughts on Birds of Prey #5 pretty well. This has to be my least favorite issue of the run so far, and I think my feelings are mostly influenced by the art. The characters don't seem as distinct or expressive in this art style, not to mention our female leads look more sexualized. I was most annoyed by this during the more emotional moments of the issue, i.e. Dinah's reaction to Sim being taken, Dinah's heart-to-heart, etc. Megara came off a bit too silly, I think, which also seemed to undercut the more emotional moments between Dinah and Sim. It also seemed to counteract some of the seriousness of the mission. Unfortunate. Like you, I disliked, Megara saying, quote unquote, rude. I can believe Sin wants to be like Dinah because of their relationship. It's true that there are other heroes without superpowers that she could look up to, but why? She has no emotional connection to them, or at least not one as strong as the one she shares with Dinah. I think it makes sense that her wants and even her insecurities are seen reflected in the people she feels closest to, aka Dinah. I think that is pretty human and also fitting for someone young who is struggling to figure out their place in the world. I'm definitely curious to see how this all wraps up, and I pray Romero will be back with us for the next issue. Stay safe out there, Shayna. So I will say, number one, that is nice reading about Stowe, I guess, last month, because I'm sickened that I'm looking at the temperature on my computer and it says 80 degrees and it's March 14th. I mean, it was upper 60s in February. Makes me sick. Global warming. I need to move north, but the schools up there are not biting at my resume and my cover letters, which is ridiculous. But no, I do agree with you. Yeah, on what you're the way you put it, Shayna, I think makes a lot of sense. That I was throwing out, hey, there are all these other people you could look up to, but if you have someone close to home, someone that you have a really intimate relationship with, yes, you would probably look to that person and want to be that person. And your prayers are answered, because we'll be covering Romero's return on number 6. And I think some of your concerns are also answered. And finally, I just wrote in regards to episode 243, the shipper special, that I forgot to mention Kiss, Marry, Kill with Dido. And this is a game that I like to play, usually to kill time and lines and things like that. But I played it with some students, and I played it with two students and 2 female students, I should say, that they're bi. And so maybe it's easier that way, just because I remember another female student that I had played it and she's like, I'm not gay, I won't play that. And I'm like, these are characters. You can't just like suspend, something for a little bit. So I don't know. But anyway, so these 2 students were game, and I did Kiss, Marry, Kill, Queen Dido, Lavinia, and Creusa, and they both answered the same way. And it was 2 different situations, because I had seen one. I think we were at a soccer game and we were waiting to leave the parking lot, and I saw the other one like months later. And I think they both killed off Creusa and they kissed Lavinia, and they both married Dido, and said, which I love this about them. They said, because she deserves a good woman. And I'm like, it's true. Poor Dido. I do love her so much. Her downfall is huge and rapid, and it always makes me sad, but she's an awesome character. And also, since Donovan and I were talking about Troy, I could have totally mentioned Achilles and Briseis from that film in particular, just for the toxic couple list, just because she's a war prize, she's a slave, and like she's about to kill him in the film, and then he like flips her over, and then all of a sudden they have sex. So it's like, well, young adult me is like, hey, that's pretty hot. But older, wiser person was like, that's pretty problematic. Plus, when you look at the source material, it's like Briseis was not having a good time, no matter what Troy has to say. So that's it for my listener emails. Remember, you can always write in to Batgirl the Oracle, or if you would like to, you can always go on YouTube and let me know what you think by posting some comments. So we are going to look at Birds of Prey number 6, which was last month's. So apologies for being slightly behind. This is Megadeth Part 6, writer Kelly Thompson, art Leonardo Romero, and colorist Jordi Belair. It's all-out war on Themyscira as the team faces off against the mythical Megara. Can the birds overcome this ancient evil, or will one of them have to pay the ultimate price? So, a nice little cover. It is interesting to note, of course, that the whole team is together, and I say that because of the next issue, where that is no longer the truth, I should say. So, the dream team, as I call them, the creative dream team, is back. And while I do have a few nitpicks and disappointments with this story, it did feel like issues 1 through 4. And because of that, I think it just makes it more evident that issue 5 was a blip. And I think because of that, it's like, well, we can forgive it. Let's give it grace. But also I have questions as to why it was a blip in that way. I like Megara's voice more in this issue. I felt like it was more appropriate in terms of word choice as well as tone. Like the fact, perhaps we could come to a more equitable arrangement. So something that is more formal rather than saying rude. I wasn't sure where that was coming from. I also liked that the MacGuffin urn was finally used. Sort of, I guess we'll say, since it starts to be used and then the action shifts and there's no need for that particular urn anymore. It at least dampens Megara's power, but we see from the ending that we do not see, and we have not seen, the last of her. So a huge question that I had as I was reading for the first time is pictured here. How the heck did Sin get Diana's lasso? And I was like thinking, this seems like such a big error. Like, where did this come from? This cannot possibly. And so I was thinking, no, wait, I think that she got it. So I will say that in case you were foggy as well about this, that before she left Diana, and she was supposed to kind of go, and I think she was supposed to find the birds originally, but she ended up just going elsewhere, that we do see Diana give her the lasso, and this happens in issue 4. So luckily, I'm not going to gripe about something that I didn't think happened when it actually happened. Now, one question I have, not actually a question, a nitpick, I will say, is on this particular page. It's this talk about Diana. So at the top of the page, Bartis says that Diana is unconscious. And then 3-4 panels later, Cass says that they last saw Meridian fighting Wonder Woman, but don't know if Meridian survived. So I don't know how in the same page, how both of those things can be true. Is Wonder Woman unconscious or is she fighting Meridian? So I would say that would be my nitpick of the issue. Just a little confusion right there. The main storyline of this issue, because I honestly don't have too many. Could it be this? Yeah, it's part of it, right? We live together or we die together, which is both Megara and Sin. So this, if we call this the main storyline of this arc, of this issue, I feel like it ends anticlimactically because Megara was this huge world-ending threat that was going to use Sin as a vessel. And now Sin and Megara inhabit the same body. So in fact, Sin is the vessel. And she's now not going to destroy the world. So it felt like as we were going like 1 through 4, issues 1 through 4, we kept getting bigger and bigger. And we really got to the point where it had nowhere to go. And now it's like it completely dissipated and just the story ended in a very small way. And so I'm a bit befuddled as to why it just dropped off so dramatically like this, like off the cliff. Now, obviously, this opens the door for more stories, and we can definitely expect this, meaning Sin and Megara being one and the same, to crop up again. But it was not the ending that I was looking for or expecting. I don't know what that might have been. I mean, I guess period, I thought that Megara was going to be destroyed. That was what I was expecting. So this is strange. I mean, we were all, if the whole mission was about protecting Sin, I think we failed. I think we failed. She seems okay right now. She seems okay in 7, but this was not the way I think that it should have gone. It is what it is. It est quod it est. The other ending. So let's just, if we move on from that, the other ending, I think, is far more compelling and probably the best part of the issue. As we finally receive the answer to this question, why wasn't Babs told about this mission? Why wasn't Babs part of the Birds of Prey? I think this is the first time that we see, or that I've seen, really Babs hurt. I shouldn't say that. First time in a while that Babs has been hurt this badly by Dinah. And, I don't encourage tension in relationships, even though, I had a shipper special about toxic relationships, but it definitely, I think, adds some depth. And you're like, oh, look, this is interesting conflict. What's going on? And better conflict than we had in, oh gosh, was it Birds of Prey or was like later issues of Batgirl? I remember Donovan used to complain about it constantly. It was just like, why is there this antagonism unnecessarily between Barbara and Dinah? And you're like, I don't know. This is different though. This is like Dinah was looking to protect Babs because Babs in 11 future viewings by Meridian dies every time she goes on that mission. And Barbara can't know that and doesn't know that. And so she just feels like, oh, you didn't trust me or something like that. So I just felt like it was big and questions were answered, which I really love. So we definitely have a Doctor Strange situation in the Thanos film. Endgame? No, it'd be the other one before Infinity Wars, question mark, with maps, her doing this multiple times and seeing what outcomes there are. So that's an interesting angle, especially because Barbara dies in every scenario. Now, she only does this 11 times, but it's just interesting that Barbara is the one that is affected. As macabre as it may be, I will say that this is Donna seeing dead Babs is my favorite page, just in terms of its dynamism, its coloring, the emotion that you can see on Dinah's face, all of that. And also just, I think, the love that you can see between Dinah and Babs because of how Dinah holds her. So favorite page there. I'm excited to see, because at the end where we have this great kind of call to action that nobody is killing Barbara Gordon on our bleep bleep watch, that we're moving on. We're going to have a different Birds of Prey team. So I'm excited to see who Thompson has lined up as, the new squad, because we see a little bit in the next issue, but not fully. I'm also excited to see who Thompson has lined up as the big bad for the next art, and whether it is a classic villain or somebody new. I'm hoping that it's classic, but I guess we'll see. And yeah, I think I'll talk more about the team and kind of that creative choice in the next issue. But overall, it's like I can kind of throw away the other part of that issue and really focus on this and feel like this is really strong, and now we're leading it into something really interesting, because I just don't fully understand some of the choices, like the creative choices in doing the Sin and Megara. But it does open up for a lot of possibilities in the future, because what if Sin becomes a bad guy because she's just being controlled by Megara? Who knows? So I'm going to give it a lower score, but not terribly well. I think I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10 birds. Okay. I am going to take a break. When I come back, I'm going to look at Birds of Prey number 7. But first, it's Ice's Radio Hour, featuring Maneater by Nelly Furtado. I will say that I Googled runway songs because I thought I need a song that represents fashion. And this was one of the ones on a playlist. I thought, That's about right. Let's do it. So I will see you soon. Welcome back. So we are going to be looking at Birds of Prey, Volume 5, Number 7, Undercover Animals, Part 1 of 2. Writer Kelly Thompson, art Javier Pina, and colorist Jordi Belair. As you can see, this is the cover that caused that small kerfluffle. It was probably bigger than small on X because of Barbara and her full use of the legs. Though I think this is kind of false advertising because she's mainly Oracle in this particular issue, and Cass isn't really there either. So while I like the cover, it does not speak truthfully of what goes on inside. So Sin is alive and back with Black Canary in Gotham, and the world didn't get destroyed, but the cost was high and nobody's exactly sure what it means yet. Shocking revelations in the wake of the Birds' first mission lead Dinah to a conspiracy against the Birds of Prey and a whole new mission. New mission, new team. Hold on to your butts. Conspiracy is a fun word. Of course, not if you are probably in politics or Romans at the time who hated and deeply feared conspiracies. But if you break it down to con and then spiracy from spiro spirare, meaning to breathe, con together, to breathe together. I mean, isn't that really interesting? Which is what, these groups are doing potentially. It might just be one person, but just if you think about kind of political groups of old, and yeah, they were like secret and whispering and breathing together. So just a great image for that particular word. So I will say that my only nitpick with this issue is actually at the beginning. So I think I'll just say it right off the bat, since it is at the beginning. I just wonder why Maps has suddenly revealed herself to Barbara when in the previous issue she intentionally hid herself. Nothing was supposed to be known about her. Dinah couldn't talk about all of this. So it's just interesting. Why now? Now, of course, we could say that, well, Meridian said you can't tell her at all and until this mission is over because she would try to come no matter what. So that could work. But the mission was over the previous issue when on the rooftop there. So I don't know why Maps didn't reveal herself. We could have alleviated some of Barbara's pain of betrayal. But that would be my, I think, only nitpick of this particular issue. I appreciate the Maps character analysis that we get in this particular issue, that even as an adult, she holds on to her optimism and her hope, sometimes to her detriment. And while Babs and Dinah do call this out, because we find out how Meridian is able to shift between time streams, I guess we'll say, they also say that it is an asset. And I think it's just great to see that the maps that we love now is still the maps in the future. The inclusion of the green and the red is interesting. I don't fully understand how Maps is connecting to the green, but the mere mention of them, I think, brings in a wealth of possibilities when it comes to characters showing up. I personally love Poison Ivy. I don't think she's the big bad, but it would be awesome if we could bring her in. And given the fact that we bring in someone from the red in this issue, maybe we'll see her later on. Now, when I heard about the red, I immediately thought, of course, about Animal Man, but I figured Thompson is not going to use a male. She's definitely going to go with a female. And I was just like, I think it's going to be Vixen. And then, in fact, we see Vixen later on. And then I'm assuming we're going to see her in the next issue as well. And I just love how Oracle just makes an appointment and Vixen immediately knows what has happened. So that was a fun scene as well. Oracle, very much oracling here. So Thompson is doing something here that I didn't expect, which is have a new roster of birds, which I mentioned at the end of the previous issue. New roster with this new storyline. Now, this could be too much, but I think Thompson finds a good balance because she keeps some members on the team. Of course, we have Dinah and we have Barda and Cass, and I guess Meridian, we could say temporarily. And most likely, we're going to have the constant duo of Dinah and Babs. So even if we're rotating people out with storylines, Dinah and Babs is our constant. I am a bit disappointed we don't have Harley and Zealot, mainly because I think there's always more team building that can be done. Plus, there were all these unanswered Zealot questions that I have, and I'm not sure that now we're going to get them, which is super frustrating. But hey, Barda and Cass for the win. And, definitely they're bringing in some of the humor. And I think that the tone continues to be balanced between seriousness, gravity, and some lightness as well. And speaking of Cass and Barda, it seems like they are at a laser tag. Just with the organization of the particular place, the architecture of it, and then this gun here. It's like pay for your own danger room in order to train Sin/Megara. I don't know if Sin's going to have a handle by this point. Sin has this costume, by the way, which is mostly black and then with green. Vine like that might not be, I don't know, ribbon like. Oh, her hair also has green highlights as well to kind of show that Megara is still with her. But wraps that, ribbons or not lace. I don't know. It's hard for me. I enjoy looking at fashion. Am I going to be able to describe it? No. But you can at least tell the accents that are green. It's like, okay, well, Megara is here with her. So the favorite scene, I think, would definitely be this particular laser tag scene where Bart is like about to go in lethal and Cass is like, well, not totally lethal, right? So Cass is always the one that is bringing her a bit back into safety potentially for all parties involved. Or, so that could be my favorite scene, or the scene where Vixen is helping Cass or showing off different options, fashion options for Cass to wear at this future show. And just the fact that Cass is not saying anything, but it's all to do with her facial expressions. And then I also like how Vixen is rendered as well with her facial expressions. So those would be my two favorite scenes. I also like the discussion of Dinah's outfit. I can't tell if they're in the same room or just next to each other. But Dinah's saying, I think you know. Okay, well, it starts with Mari, and then Mari says, yes, I think you left some information out of this mission profile. You're mad about the outfit? It's not an outfit so much as it's lingerie. Your superhero costume is basically a swimsuit. It has a jacket and fishnets. You think the fishnets make it less sexy? You know what I mean? Not like this on display, like weird, sexy baked goods. And tell me you didn't put Sin in one of these, Mari. My God. Of course not. She's 16. She's wearing a catering uniform. So that was fun. And you don't even see them. You don't know what the outfit is. And I suppose that this person right here is just an assistant to Mari, but she's just hanging out on her phone. I really like the art by Pina. I think that it is a good transition. If we're finished, sadly, with Romero, I think it's a good transition. Or perhaps Romero is taking a break for 2 issues. Pina's got this, and then Romero will come back with the next art. But similar vibes, I would say. And then because we have a consistent colorist with Jordi Belair, we have that feel that kind of carries over. And I really liked the flashback and how it, just the tone and the colors that were used. I like how this was laid out. So great scene there. So art, in my opinion, was great. I also like how Pina designed the runway outfits, that they're each distinct. They're each, I think, fitting the character that is wearing them. And then also looking at body types and how each of the women has a particular and specific to them body type that definitely makes sense. Like Barda, of all of the 4, like, yeah, absolutely. Barda's 6-pack would be showing. I was trying to count very quickly how many abs were showing compared to, the others. Yeah. So I just like this. This also reminds me of that new film that is out now, Love Lies Bleeding, with Katie O'Brien. Katie O'Brien would actually be, she would be a great Big Barda. I don't know if they'll ever bring the New Gods into a cinematic universe, but yeah, Katie O'Brien would definitely hit that out of the park. The fact that Sin is wearing a catering outfit or uniform because she's 16, but Cass is on the runway, obviously, I think speaks to the fact that Cass has to be 18 or older. I think maybe Donovan throws out 20, something like that. But It's anyone's guess. I think people hedge and they don't like to throw out specific numbers because then they're like locked in. And then other people will come out and be like, but you said in this issue that she was blank. So, I don't know. I don't think that the bad guy of this 2-issue story is the big bad that we're looking for. That's looking to destroy, but Barbara looking to destroy the birds of prey. It feels actually like the bad guy in this 2-issue series might be Mad Hatter, given the fact that once Vixen's clothes were ripped, as we see on this page here, that she regained control of her own mind. Now, obviously, this is kind of the conspiracy is tied in because she's a part of the Red, and she's also, a member. At one point, she carries a card, anyways. I guess like the Justice League carries a card for Birds of Prey, so she can be called upon at any point. So if you're going to destroy Birds of Prey, you got to also destroy Vixen. So there's like that kind of connection. But I just think that this is an offshoot and it's somebody else. Maybe Vixen will be able to help out with the red and the green. But yes, I think the big bad has yet to be revealed. I like the balance that Thompson has created with Babs' role on the team, mostly as Oracle, but also doing some investigative work in the field. Obviously, probably because it's her maybe main connection, even though Donna has a connection with the Vixen, but Oracle is the one that gets them into that appointment, and she's kind of the name behind the squad, even though she was nameless and faceless for so long. But, she's out there, but then when it comes down to it, she is sitting back behind the desk here. Let's see here. Dinah says, I see you have cleverly gotten yourself out of the undercover mission. And Babs says, Vixen's plan wasn't the only reason I decided to run things as Oracle rather than join you in the field. If our time-traveling villain is behind this and doesn't know you've involved me, keeping up that ruse might give us an edge. Besides, I'm close by and I'll join you if things get pear-shaped. Dinah is annoyed, grumble, grumble, and Babs has noted it in the official mission notes. But Dinah also says, and this is another best part, a favorite part for me, and certainly gives me all the nostalgia feels. Dinah says, I miss having you in my ear. And Babs says, Grosko solved crimes, Canary out, Oracle out, and then once gone, Babs says, I missed it too. So definitely this is, I liked the first arc. It was really strong in the beginning. 5 was a bit of a blip, as I said, and then 6 kind of anticlimactic, but this is like, oh my gosh, this feels like classic Birds of Prey. And if we have a rotating roster, but we have this consistency, I think that there'll be a good balance there. And hopefully we'll have people that we've not seen on the team before and other people. And then also if we have Barda and Cass and keeping that buddy cop that I love so much, I think that'll be great as well. But it honestly, like this scene in particular, just felt like this is the essence of Birds of Prey. So I'm super excited about this new arc. Beyond these 2 issues, since we know that that's going to be a short story. Honestly, besides that initial nitpick, I don't see anything wrong with this particular issue. And I think if you are wanting to give the story a try and maybe you weren't invested in 1 through 6, I think number 7 is an awesome hopping on point for new and old fans as well. So I'm going to give this, shocking to say, but 10 out of 10 birds. Okay, so the only thing left, which is rather embarrassing, is my literature recommendation. Now, I say it's rather embarrassing because I think I've read like 40 books already in 2024, but the vast majority of those have been smut. And so I'm not going to go through and tell you 40 books that I have read. If you want maybe a tailor-made recommendation list for you, then you can tell me maybe some of your tropes that you like, and I can give you some stuff. There are ones that I have liked a lot, and other ones that as I was reading, I'm like, this was not worth it. But I'll give you the ones that I 4-starred, 4 stars and above. I don't think I've given any of mine 5. I will tell you which ones. I will say of all of L. Kennedy's, because I've read all the hockey ones except for The Graham Effect, which I have on my shelf. I have a physical copy of that one. I would recommend the first one, which was The Deal. And my personal favorite main male character is Colin Fitzgerald in The Chase. So I would get that one, my tattooed hockey player guy. So maybe I just won't tell you the smuts, but The Wretched of the Earth by Franz Fanon. I read that. That was, I would say, I mean, it's not like the easiest read, about colonialism, but it was worthwhile. Scanning through the smut. I will say, I do like Stephanie Archer as a writer. I like her Behind the Net better than no. I'm trying to think. I like her first hockey one more than the second hockey one. But then there's a 4-story or set in the same town. I really liked The Wrong Mr. Right, so I recommend that one. There was The Bookworm was in there, a bookworm and a surfer. So that was nice. Just Action: How to Challenge Segregation Enacted Under the Color of Law by Richard Rothstein and Leah Rothstein. And this is sort of a spiritual successor to The Color of Law. It was more technical, so it was definitely more difficult to read. Worthwhile, yes, but definitely more difficult. I did not like The Love Hypothesis by Allie Hazelwood as much as other people have. It was okay, but I think that one is highly rated. The Sin Bin by Anastasia White. I did give that 4 stars. Killers of the Flower Moon, The Osage Murders and the Birth of the FBI by David Grann. I enjoyed that. I wanted to read that. That was the last movie I had to watch. I watched all of the contenders for Best Picture before the Oscars, and that was the last one because I knew it was 3.5 hours. So I read it, and then the following Monday I sat down and watched that whole film. It sure was a lot. Oh boy. And speaking of the Oscars, I got 16. I predicted 16 out of 23 correct. And then finally, which I gave 5 stars, not smut, but Prima Facie, Prima Facie by Susie Miller, which is a play. And if you know anything, I guess, about shows like West End or Broadway, you will have known that Jodie Comer played that. It's a one-woman show. It's about a barrister who typically defended people who were accused of sexual assault. And then in a turn of events, she herself is sexually assaulted by a romantic partner. And then she's on the stands. And so it's really interesting, very powerful. So I highly recommend that. And I think that's all I will say. So again, if you should actually, I'm still looking forward to hearing what people's favorite romantic tropes are. The surprise pregnancies, not liking it. There is one, it was Sin Bin. I had 3 chapters left and this chick gets pregnant. I'm like, why are we wasting our time on this? But anyways, such is life. You can certainly judge me for my reading of smut, but in all the stresses that I have in life and all of the jobs, this is one thing that I can sort of relax, turn off the brain, and just have fun with. And you know what? It's a nice stress relief. So I'm unapologetically still going to read it. And I just am like whittling down my Goodreads of the 2 reads. And then I think I'll probably stop. So it's not so bad of an addiction. But whenever I go on Instagram and like I see a cutesy cover and I look to see what it is, that's probably what I need to do, is stop doing that, because then I get intrigued. I'm like, this sounds good. And then put it on my Goodreads. So it only gets bigger rather than smaller. But I can stop. I can stop anytime. Actually, if I had thought more in advance, I would have given up the smut for Lent. But as it was, when Lent happened or began, I think I was in the middle of one that I borrowed from the library. So it was problematic because then I would have had to leave it unfinished and return it. So I just didn't. So what I did was give up reels on Instagram, because that's certainly where I can lose a lot of my time. So I think think that's it. I just went off on a diatribe about smut. Well, remember, you can send any questions or comments to batgirltheoracle@gmail.com. Like the show on Facebook, follow it on Twitter, Batgirl the Oracle. Subscribe to the show on YouTube for an uncut version, and follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter as well, and support it by subscribing to Patreon. Once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. And as far as I know, we'll do some vintage, and by we, I mean I, the royal we. We'll do some vintage Birds of Prey next episode, so you can look forward to that. I forgot how far in the series I am. I was looking at my Excel worksheet. I'm like, wow, I'm closer to 100 than I thought. And then I was scrolling down, like, wow, this show is closer to ending than I thought. So here we are. I hope that you are safe out there. Oh, I forgot to tell you that in March, I have embarked upon a March Fitness Challenge. I wanted to see if I could run at least a mile every day in March. So I've yet to run. I'm actually, as I finish this episode, I'm going to go out there and run, I think just 2 miles. But so far I've done it. Sometimes it's hard, especially the days that I go to the gym in the morning, and then I typically walk during my lunchtime break. And then it's running. So my legs are already tired, or the gym days specifically that are leg day is problematic. Oof. Yeah. So there have been some hard days, but we're doing it. We're bringing some people in. I'm encouraging other people. Hey, if you out there, it's never too late to start. If you email me and hey, give me a challenge, I'll give you one. Harry, for example, he's doing at least a mile walk every day. And Dawn has joined in, and maybe you want to drink 8 more ounces a day, or you want to give up sodas for, the rest of March, something like that. Do something. It's never too late to start. But challenge yourself. And then if you need me to hold you accountable, I absolutely will, because I think that's one of the beautiful things about doing challenges together is you have someone to grumble with and celebrate with and keep you accountable. So if you need that in me, I'll be glad to do it. But until then, which I guess next time I'll be like, hey, I'll tell you all about how I felt on March 31st. But until then, fly on, Babs lovers.
Just plain Barbara Gordon, masquerading for a lark as she rides into the night on her special Batgirl cycle. Who knows? Is the dynamic duo destined to become the triumphant trio? Only time will tell us more about this dazzling daredoll.
I love a happy ending, don't you?